Exactly 1 year ago today, we were all out here on the sidewalk praying for an end to the abortion facility here in Las Cruces.
September 2014 that we learned that there was an abortion facility opening right here in Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is the city of the crosses. New Mexico is considered the late-term abortion capital of the country. The community responded immediately with our first 40 Days for Life campaign. But when that campaign was over, we knew we needed to do something more. We needed to continue our efforts.
I knew from my experience in El Paso that a sidewalk presence was necessary.
If this facility is operating full-time, fully staffed, fully funded to harm the women and the children of our community, how could we as a church only respond part-time?
Never thought I could do that. Stand in a sidewalk, a very busy street. Probably the busiest street in our city.
And none of us in Las Cruces really knew what we were doing. We really didn't know how to sidewalk counsel, and we'd had such a difficult time here with our sidewalk outreach because of the logistics. It was so hard.
Legally, we could only stand in the front at the end of the driveway.
Where we could stand, the outreach was incredibly difficult because most of the traffic coming through was going very fast. It was going to other businesses.
It was always a decision, do we stand in the back, do we stand in the front? We knew that the clinic workers were probably keeping an eye on us as well and seeing where we were positioned and then directing their clients to leave the opposite direction.
Abortion facilities are updating their strategies every day. They love when pro-lifers are, scattered over here or scattered over there, and there's not an organized effort because they know how to deal with that.
They're organized, they're working together at regional levels, at national levels, and sometimes at the local pro-life levels, we're kind of working with little pocketed efforts. But we knew that if we just tried to reinvent the wheel and we just tried to do it our way, we were going to fail. Instead, we actually needed to learn from cities that had been successful.
He looked at what was working well in other locations across the country.
Going to these other Coalition for Life offices, learning from Sidewalk Advocates for Life, learning what works, what does not work, why doesn't it work, how can we tweak that so that it works here in Las Cruces. Well, especially the Coalition for Life in St. Louis. We were really inspired by the video produced by Sidewalk Advocates for Life on the St. Louis method. So we started testing that out and we started seeing results. We started having people stop, we started having saves, we started having people redirected to our local pregnancy center.
Many of the people that became sidewalk advocates also did 40 Days for Life. It was almost like one group.
He took an integrated approach and pulled the community together.
I had Googled, what is the scriptural basis for goal setting?
Martha came together with Linda and the other prayer warriors.
I hosted two sessions, one in the morning for people that could come in the morning and one in the evening for sidewalk advocates to set some very specific goals out.
How many people they were going to recruit, how many hours they were going to spend on the sidewalk, and how many people they were going to have for each and every hour.
What are we going to do this month? How are we going to increase our presence out there? How many more trainings do we need to have?
This community understood that systematic, simple steps could yield amazing results.
And we were still kind of testing some of these new methods we learned from the St. Louis method and from Brian Westbrook, and we were seeing some increased results. We were seeing more people stop.
And all they did was systematically go through this step by step by step.
And the integrated strategies that they knew were proven and worked. And they put that all together so that they could build a timeline to shut that facility down.
We had an advocate on the sidewalk, and it was kind of funny because they actually called me and said, I've been out here, praying for an hour, and I just noticed that their sign's down.
All their signs were gone, and it just was such an overwhelming feeling.
To be honest, at first we weren't even excited, we were suspicious. It was like, what are they up to? What are they doing? Are they going somewhere else? Are they changing ownership? What's going on?
He found out that their business had been affected by 10 to 15%. That's all it takes to shut down an abortion facility.
In spite of ourselves, in spite of the difficulties, in spite of the frustrations and the challenges, in spite of the fact that this is the late-term abortion capital of the country, and then in spite of the fact that there's no laws here, to help us that are on our side.
And all those hours standing out there in the wind and the rain and the heat and the cold, it didn't matter. It was all so worth it.
It was almost incomprehensible, the feeling. We saw God, in spite of all of those challenges, answer those prayers.
God worked a miracle. It was all God. It was praise God.
The message, I believe, out of Las Cruces is that you can do this.
It can be done anywhere. We've got programs in place that are effective and they work and they're proven.
For those that really want a more systematic approach, here it is.
You don't have to take away 100% of their business. It can be as simple as taking away 10%.
Many times, just being out there in front of that abortion facility, their numbers go down.
Every time a woman chooses not to go there and go to one of these life-affirming facilities, it cuts their bottom line and they will close their doors.
I realized that I had been putting too much emphasis on asking Caesar to help my neighbor for me. And that's not what we're called to do. We're called to get out and help our neighbor. And that's what Sidewalk Advocates for Life and 40 Days for Life helped us to do in Las Cruces.
If you're thinking about becoming a sidewalk advocate and you're not sure, you think that's not something that you cannot do, that's what happened to me. I didn't think I could do it, and I did it, and it was so rewarding.
God is on our side, and we are being his hands and feet, and that's what he has called us to be. So when you bring all these Christ-oriented, like-minded groups together, how can you go wrong?
All it takes is one person to decide this is what we need to do.
Is that person you? Is that you? Is God calling you to be that one to go out, mobilize your community, and end abortion in your hometown?
Don't lose the faith. Don't lose the hope. It's God's timing that he will work that miracle for you.
Stick with it. You may not see this side of heaven, the end of what you're working so hard to accomplish, but God sees it.